So, okay, so let's get back to who Lisa is now.
Yes.
Okay, so you are an IP attorney and you are a screenwriter, a playwright, author. Please explain, like, that's a lot. And to be able to put out that kind of in that level of work over short periods of time, in my opinion, how first of all, tell me about the first work, the first. Well, I know you have a bunch of screenplays, but your first book.
Right. So my first book that I actually published. So I love writing. It is one of my deepest passions. I I've been writing since I was in high school, in university. My friend Stephanie will tell you about this story that I wrote when we were in business law class in first year of UE, which I haven't really done anything with, but I really should because it was one of the first stories that I ever sort of came up with. It was a short story about a king with a very fussy daughter, and it's like she wanted him to make her a special coat, and he ordered the murder of all these chinchillas to make this coat. And my friend was just like, "You're an insane person,"
Number one.
but I love it. And I was just like, "Yes, I love it too." But the first book that I have actually published is called The Time Traps Captive. And it's essentially a kind of fantasy, kind of historic fiction, kind of all sort of blended, time travel in there.
Right.
Magic. And it's kind of the first story that I felt so deeply passionate about sharing fully that I had to write it and I had to put it out. And it's basically a story about a woman who gets caught in a curse, essentially.
Right.
So she's traveling through time, different periods in time, different periods in history. She meets different historic characters, historic characters. And so she kind of meets these people, and I've literally inserted her into these famous historic characters' lives.
Okay.
To just kind of sort of take my favorite periods in history and kind of put her in there. And she's essentially trying to find how does she break this cycle, because she dies and she's reborn. How does she break the curse?
Okay.
So that's essentially how that story is.
From our conversations, it seems like you have a particular style, a particular aesthetic in your writing. It's very different centuries ago.
Yes.
England. Is it specifically England?
No, so actually the Time Traps Captive goes through a bunch of countries. So it actually starts in France. And there's a point in time where she's in Port Royal, Jamaica. There's a point in time where she's in London with the Bronte sisters. There's a point in time where she is in the United States with Al Capone. There's a point in time where she's in Guyana in Jonestown,
right,
with Jim Jones.
Yes.
It's just me kind of picking what I love and putting her in those situations.
That's interesting. So how do you do your research for your writing when you have a particular, like your first novel? What was the research behind that?
Right. So that was actually the longest part of the process, was picking the era, the times, and then actually doing a very deep delve into the characters that I wanted to pick, the situations I wanted to put her in. And so it had a lot of library research, internet research, book research. So it was a lot. And that was, I think, the longest part of the process. Because once I got the timelines down and I got the different characters down and the situations that I wanted to put her in, I just, spent a couple of weeks. It was basically every day, every whole day, Sunday, for about 2 months. Writing that.
Wow. How long did it take you to write that?
So that one took me about 2 months.
From research to finish?
From research to finish.
that just sounds like a very short period of time for how many pages? 300 pages?
Yeah, so this one's about 300 pages.
And it just pours out of you.
It
The
does.
dialogue, everything.
Yeah, so for this one, because when you're really passionate about something, it just kind of like works, and it just kind of it just feels good to like sit down. So literally, I said it's a whole day on Sunday. So I'd start in the morning, and like Sunday evening, I'm still writing. So when you kind of get that drive to do it because you are passionate about getting it out for people to see, yeah, it just kind of comes.
So that's the first one. There are others.
Yes, there are others.
Yes.
So I write under my pen name, actually, because I try to separate legal writing from fictional writing. So I write under my pen name, Elizabeth Churchill. So there's actually one other book that is out now also, which is called The Surprising Road to Love. And that is a complete diversion from the kind of historic fiction. This one is very campy teen romance. It's about a girl who... It has a little history element. It's about a girl who goes with her mother to help her mother. Her grandma's moving in with them. So they're trying to clear out her grandma's house. Mm-hmm. She stumbles across a box of old letters, which is her great-great-great-grandfather's letters to her great-great-great-grandmother. Mm-hmm. And while she's kind of like figuring out their story through reading the letters, she kind of has her own kind of romance coming through as well. And this one is actually a novella. So this one's probably about 100 pages. And it's meant to be a 3-part series. So the first book, it's called the Road series. So it's a surprise. The first book is called The Surprising Road to Love. The series is called the Road series. And so this first one is basically her finding her own kind of love story as she's reading about her, family's story.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so this one's about 100 pages. The second book in this series is also done and will be available very soon. And it's a continuation. So it's book 2. This one is called The Hardest Road to Travel.
Hardest Road to Travel.
The Hardest Road to Travel. They're all road.
Yeah, some road thing.
Road
Right.
themed.
Right.
So this one's a little bit about her and her newfound love and some struggles along the way.
Okay.
With family and with them, and just them kind of seeing how best they can figure out their struggles together.
And the first one in the series,
Yes.
in the Road series, is already published and
It's
available.
already published and available, yes.
The second one isn't.
The second one isn't.
Okay. And there's going to be 3.
There's going to be a third one, which will finish off the series, which I am aiming for next year.
Okay. So help me with your time management. How do you manage your time around these books?
So the first book that I wrote, that was a series of Sundays. Mm-hmm. The first book in this series, also a kind of series of Sundays. The second one actually also a series of Sundays. So that's kind of how I've had to manage
Sundays.
So I've had to manage that. But I've been very blessed that now I'm doing some more writing and I'm a little less restricted in terms of time. So I can do more daytime, I can do weekdays. So I've been really blessed to have that opportunity.
To work on them.
So
Are you still writing screenplays as well?
I haven't written a screenplay in a little while, but I recently got an idea. And I want to write that one, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many screenplays do you think you have?
I want to say about 3.
3 feature length
3 feature-length
screenplays. Now, for those in the audience who do not understand really what a feature length, when we say feature length, we mean more than 100 pages.
Yes.
You have 3
Yes.
screenplays of
Yes.
more than 100 pages.
Yes.
3 different stories.
3 different stories.
Is the process any different?
So the process for that is it's a little different, and how I like to do screenplays is I am kind of like a very eccentric person. So
Yes.
if you know, some people will look at me and go, "Oh my gosh, she's so crazy. She might be a little crazy," because I will literally be sitting down talking to myself. But I'm not talking to myself. What I'm really doing is
Figuring it out.
figuring out the characters.
Right.
So I.
So do you become them? Do you?
So you have to become them so you can bounce the dialogue off each other. It's the only way.
Interesting. That would be very interesting to observe you work through your characters.
It's the only way. So you have to be both sides of the story.
Interesting.
So you start with, the character of one dialogue and see how the character of the other dialogue will fit in with that. It sounds like a crazy process, but
That's
it
fine.
is the way that it has to go.
That's fine.
Because it's your story. So it's very difficult until you have something written down for you to table read with someone else.
Right.
So really, in
So
the
you're
process of writing, you're table reading with yourself.
And that's fine.
Yeah.
So you do actually sound crazy, bouncing male character dialogues with female character
And you
dialogues.
have to, and when the characters have accents, you have to do it in the accent.
So you do it in the accent as well?
I will do it in the accent if I have to.
So would you act then? Would you consider doing some screen time?
I think that I have thought about it, and yeah, I would.
You would?
I would. I would. I think it would be. I keep saying, like, I would love to, like, write something and actually star in it. I keep saying that I would love to do that. And I think eventually I'd like to try that.
Eventually.
Eventually, yeah. I'd
Okay.
like to try that.
So you have screenplays, you have books.
Yes.
And you have plays as well?
So I wrote one play with someone. So when I was at Norman Manley Law School, I wrote a play with 2 other colleagues of mine, Christopher and Claudine. And it was basically the theatrical production that's put on by the law school every year. So like the med school, they have Smoker.
Smoker, right.
We have something called Silk.
Silk, yes.
So I wrote Silk in, I think, 2013 with Claudine and Chris. And it was performed at the Philip Sherlock Center for 2 nights.
Interesting.
And
So you wrote a Silk. Interesting.
I wrote a Silk. It was really fun. The process of getting there was less so fun, but the actual performing was quite fun.
It was fun.
Yeah.
And you were in it as well?
I was not in it
Okay.
at all because I had to. So for that, I had a lot of responsibilities. So I was the executive producer, I was the property master, I was ensuring technical, so all the sound effects and things,
Stage
that was
lighting.
me.
Mm-hmm.
All the different things, that was me. So I
So
had a
you're-
lot of responsibilities.
Oh, so you didn't
in
have
the
time
background.
to be in it?
No.
What was that story about?
So that story was about a lawyer who is on trial for murdering her lover in the office. Now, it turns out that it's not really her, but how we get to the end of the story is the fun part, which I can tell you.
Yeah.
So it happens that the guy she's with in the office has a girlfriend. The girlfriend actually finds out about them. Her husband, meaning the lawyer's husband, also finds out, schemes up with the girlfriend, and the girlfriend shoots him in the office, plants the gun in the lawyer's safe,
Right.
and it's a whole thing.
So, okay.
And that's how we
Wrong place,
get
wrong
there.
time.
Yeah. And that's how we get there.
How long did if you remember, how long it took you to write that play?
So that one was, I want to say that one was about 6 weeks initially. So that was, again, meeting with the other writers. That one took about 6 weeks initially because we had a pretty short time. So we got to school in September. the plays in December. We had to write it. We had to have auditions. We had to have everybody learn their lines. Then we had to do run-throughs. And we had the director who, was, all right, let's try and change something here in the script, try and change something there in the script. So some rewrites took place. Yeah, and it was performed in December. And it was a process.
So that's your one and only
That's my one and
play.
only stage play. Yeah.
Stage play.
Yes.
Okay.